Now in this presentation I have to focus the other disorder or diseases other than the MSDs, because musculoskeletal disorder is already discussed in the previous presentation. So the next one is CVS, that is also called as computer vision syndrome. So from the name itself it is clear that this disorder or disease is due to the computer systems, and if you are working for many hours on the computer systems or the laptops or the mobile or palm tops, etc., then you may suffer from this CVS, that is computer vision syndrome. So what exactly it is? It is the condition resulting from the focusing the eyes on a computer or other display device for a protected uninterrupted periods of time. So if your time is more, if you are looking at the computer or the electronic gadget for longer period, if you are focusing and refocusing on the screen again and again, then the condition which result is called as computer vision syndrome. So some symptoms of this CVS is headache, blurred vision, neck pain, fatigue, eye strain, dry eyes, irritated eyes, double vision, vertigo or dizziness, and difficulty refocusing the eyes. So these are the different symptoms of the CVS. The main symptoms is headache and blurred vision. So if your eyes getting strained due to these focusing and refocusing activities, then there may affect on the head. So headache may be one of the symptoms, and sometimes blurred vision due to continuous focusing and refocusing for longer time. So these are the main symptoms of this CVS. If it is on a continuous basis, then the other symptoms may arise. So these symptoms can further aggravated by improper lighting conditions. So natural light is the best solution for this. If the natural light is not available in your working area, in the workstation, then you can go for the uh, artificial light, but you should take care that there should not be glare or more brightness on the screen or on the monitor. So that is the prevention technique or the precautionary measure you should go for this when the lighting conditions are not good on your desk or at the working station. Then we have already discussed that if you are working at the computer screens for hours, then strain on your eyes, that condition is called as CVS. So normally research shows that the between 50 to 90% of people who work at a computer screen have at least some symptoms, right? So if your screen and eyes distance is less, then you may have some symptoms. If your screen is having more brightness than the normal one, then you may have some symptoms. If you are working on the computer or laptop, because normally it is happen in the IT and electronic industry, and that is why we are discussing these safety aspects in IT and electronic industry, and that is one of the disorder due to these gesture posture or these activities CVS. So when you are working on computer screen or laptop for longer time, and if you are not going to follow all these guidelines which is given by the experts, that you should have at least 20 to 28 inches distance between the computer screen and your eyes, then you should rest of after 20 minutes, then your eyes should be look at the some pieces or some things which is at the longer distance for at least 20 seconds, and that rule is called as 20-20-20. So if you are not going to follow all these things and if you are working for longer times, then the CVS may happen, right? So most of the peoples are uh, facing this problem nowadays, because nowadays, even though if you are having a mechanical engineering background, electrical background, or science background, some other background, but still in most of the work computers are involved. So that is why this percentage may rise in future also. So working adults are not the only ones affected, because nowadays the technological change, the curriculum or syllabus changes in the schools or the revisions are clearly showing that the kids also, the children are also using these tablets, mobiles or computers. And in many cases, that is the need or mandatory condition for the kids or the children's to use this computer. And from this computer, we have to learn a lot, and we have to go through some of the examination by using these computers. So kids are also affecting due to this CVS. So how do computers affect these visions? Now, when we are using this computer, we normally using the same path over and over, right? And it can get worse the longer you continue the movement. Now you are also reading, listening this activity, what exactly the CVS is. So while reading these lines, while focusing or refocusing activities there, and if the presentations, these work activities for longer time, then you may affect the CVS. So this CVS is like a carpal tunnel syndromes and other repetitive motion injuries, because normally these CPS and repetitive motion injuries or RSI words are using for some activities which are normally in the engineering industries, that is for other work. But when we are talking about the CVS, it is specially related to the computer oriented activities and computer oriented disorder, but it is like a CTS and RSI. When you work at a computer, your eyes have to focus and refocus all the time. They move back and forth as you read. You may have to look down at papers and then again back up to type. So sometimes we have to type something, some materials, and for that purpose we have to read the books, we have to read the notes, or we have to read something else, and then we have to type it. After typing some alphabets or some words, we have to read again. So these movements also creates issues. So your eyes reacts to images constantly moving and changing the shifting focus, sending rapidly varying images to your brain. So all these images, because when we are focusing on the computer, again we are focusing on the uh, book or the note, and again we are focusing on the computer screen. So all these things creates images. So each and every activity of our eyes creates images, and all these images are going to forward to our brain, and then brain understand that this activity is going on. But these repetitive activities, that is focusing and refocusing, may create a issue. All these jobs require a lot of efforts from your eyes, that is from eye muscles. And to make things worse, unlike a book or piece of paper, the screen adds contrast, flicker, and glare. So these things are also effects on your eyes. But nowadays, the computers are having some inbuilt facilities to avoid all these things. But if you are using the conventional PCs or other electronic gadgets, then you may suffer from these issues due to this contrast, flicker, and glare. What's more, it is proven that we blink far less frequently when using a computer, because we have to focus on that particular matter on the screen. So our frequency of blinking the eyes is becoming less as compared to normal one. So that may again create a issue, and that blur your vision periodically while working with these types of activities. So you are more likely to have problems if you already have any trouble. So if you already have some problems related to eyes, then it is near about definitely you may have suffering from this CVS. If you need glasses but don't have them, then also you may suffer from the serious issues. Or if you wear the wrong prescriptions for computer use, computer work gets harder as you age and natural lenses. Because normally when we are talking about the age, 40 is the number where if your age is 40 plus, then your chances of suffering from this CVS is more, because your ability to focus on near and far objects will start to go away. Your eye doctor will call this condition presbyopia. So if your age is 40 plus and if your ability to focus on the computer screen is going to reduce, then it is called as presbyopia, right? So these are the some of the CVS aspects. How to avoid this CVS now? So we have discussed about why or how the CVS may affects on your eyes. So the main or the simplest solution is to get away from your computer. That is one of the solution. But it is not feasible nowadays. It is not possible nowadays, and that is why we need some other practices to avoid this CVS. So if you are suffering from the CVS and has become a pain in your neck, here are some things to consider. That is lighting, your chair and posture, position of your screen, and some other things. So let us discuss one by one. So what exactly lighting affects on the CVS, right? So how to avoid the CVS with the help of the natural lights? So we already discussed that natural light is the best solution. So make sure that overhead lighting, desk lamps or light from windows is not causing glare on your screen. So if you avoid the glare, then your problem may be solved for some percentage. Use low wattage light bulbs in desk lamps, and if you can't stop the glare, get a screen glare filter to decrease the light reflected from your screen. So if you are not having the facilities to avoid these desk lamps or the more wattage lamps, or if you are not having the facility for these overhead lighting, then you can opt for the screen glare filter to decrease the reflection from your screen, right? So lighting is one of the parameter to avoid this CVS. Then your chair and posture. So select a chair with back supports. So it is going to avoid the back pain also, and also it is going to avoid or to maintain the distance between the monitor and your screen. So that allows you to sit up straight comfortably. Your feet should be rest flat on the floor. Chair arms should support your arms while you are typing. Never rest your wrist on the keyboards. So when you are going to type something on your keyboard, your forearms should be on the chair or on the table, but at your rest. That should not be on the keyboard. So all these gesture and postures are help to avoid the CVS. Position of your screen. So we already talked about this, that at least 20 to 28 inches distance should be maintained from your monitor screen with your eyes. Then location of source materials. So put the material you reference while typing between the keyboard and monitor. So whatever the material, that may be a book, that may be a notebook, that may be a diary, something notes, etc. So whatever the material is there. So if you want to type that text on your screen, then you have to put this material between the keyboard and monitor, so that you can easily shift from your monitor to material and material to monitor. So that focusing and refocusing activity should be fast which that will reduce the strain on your eyes as compared to the other practices. Place them the same distance from your eyes as your computer screen. In other words, try not to change your eyes focus or move your head too much when referring from the source documents. So here, why this material is between these monitor and keyboard is the second cause is to avoid the movement of your head. A document holder that is adjacent to your screen is the perfect solution for these things. So location of sources material is also important to avoid the head movement and to avoid the strain on your eyes by keeping the focusing and refocusing activities in a simple way. Then next point is your eyes. So we already discussed about these 20, 20, 20. So we have to follow this 20. What exactly this? Every 20 minutes at the computer, something at least 20 feet away or close your eyes for at least 20 seconds, right? So after working on computer, after 20 minutes, you have to look at something which is 20 feet away from your eyes, and you have to close your eyes for the 20 seconds. So you should follow these rules to avoid this CVS, right? Give your eyes longer breaks throughout the day by getting away from your computer for at least 15 minutes every 2 hours. So after 2 hours, you should take a break for your eyes for at least 15 minutes. If the CVS symptoms are there, then you should contact your eye doctor. Whatever the guidelines uh, given by this doctor, you have to follow that guidelines. How much time you have spent on the computer screen, how much time you have to sit on the chair, what exactly the working station is, how the facilities are there, how the lighting facilities are there, how the ventilation and the comfort zone is there. All things should be discussed with your doctor, because if all these things are clear to your doctor, then and then only he or she can give you the exact solutions, like particular glasses for your computer use, because in IT and electronic industry we can't go away from your computer, because the main activities or the main work is on your computer only. So we have to do these activities, we have to work on the computer screen for many hours. So for that purpose, your doctor may suggest you a specific glasses for your computer use. Then sometimes the suggestion may be a special tints or anti-reflective coatings, or talk with you about the vision therapy, right? So sometimes if you are already having the glasses, then the anti-reflective coatings may be provided for your glasses. Starting at pixel is inevitable in this day and age. You are doing it right now, but it doesn't have to lead to CVS when you take the right steps. So in the COVID-19 situations also, the most of the things, most of the work is online, and that may create a serious issues also. So for to avoid this serious issue, you have to take a right steps. That is the main solution. So what exactly the CTS is? Now we have discussed about the CVS, that is computer vision syndrome. What exactly the CVS is, how to prevent it, what are the exact treatments, and when to contact with the doctor. So we have already discussed about some symptoms, treatment, remedial measures, etc. Now what exactly the CTS is? So CTS means carpal tunnel syndrome. So it is also called as median nerve compressions. Why it is called as median nerve compression? Because the disorder or disease is related to the median nerve. So it is a condition that causes numbness, tingling or weakness in your hand. So if your hand is showing some weakness signs, if you are showing some numbness or tingling, then you may suffer from this CTS, that is carpal tunnel syndrome. So it happens because of the pressure on your median nerve, which turns the length of your arm, goes through the passage in your wrist. So the main part is wrist. So if you are suffering from the pains, weaknesses, tingling, numbness, etc. on the wrist part of your palm of your hand, then it is called as carpal tunnel syndrome, because this wrist part, which is having the median nerve, and if the median nerve is feeling the pressure on that part, then obviously indirectly that pressure is on the wrist, and that hand may have give you some symptoms, and if it is the case, then it is called as carpal tunnel syndromes, right? So with the help of photo, you can understand very well what exactly this is. So from this diagram, you can understand what exactly the part is. So this is your whole hand. This is the wrist part, and in that wrist, this is the transverse carpal ligament. These are the tendons, and this is the carpal bones. So in these carpal bones, here it is a median nerve, then this is the transverse carpal ligaments, and these are the tendons. So all these parts are affected if the median nerve is feeling a pressure. So if there is a pressure on this median nerve, then obviously it affects on these tendons, transverse carpal ligaments, and on the carpal bones. So that gives you the signals of pains in that wrist part of that hand, and that is called as CTS. So what are the symptoms of these CTSs? So there are different symptoms: burning, tingling, or itching numbness in your palm and thumb, or your index and middle fingers. So these are some of the symptoms. Then weakness in your hand and trouble holding things. So if you are facing some issues or trouble while holding some of the tools, some of the materials, etc., then that may be a sign or symptoms of this CTS. Then shock-like feelings that move into your fingers, then tingling that moves up into your arm. You might first notice that your fingers fall asleep and become numb at night. It usually happens because of how you hold your hand while you sleep. So that depends on the pressure which is on the median nerve. If the pressure is more, then you may suffer from these different symptoms and signs. In the morning, you may wake up with the numbness and tingling in your hands that may run all the way to your shoulder. During the day, your symptoms might flare up while you are holding some things with your wrist brain, like when you are driving or reading a book. So if you are doing a particular activity for a longer time, that is also called as fatigue. So if it is the case, and if it is a case for a particular part which is related to the hand, then that is called as numbness or tingling in the CTS symptoms. Early on in the condition, shaking out your hands might help you feel better, but after some time, it may not make the numbness go away. So normally, we have doing this activity in a daily life. So if your body parts, and mainly when the fingers of your hands are feeling this numbness, then you may shake your hands for some times and you may feel better for that particular time. But if it is not the case for on a continuous basis, and if the numbness or tingling is continue after sometimes, even after shaking your hands, then that may be the symptoms of CTS. Otherwise it is a temporary numbness or temporary tingling for your hands. As carpal tunnel syndromes gets worse, you may have less grip. So for holding some materials, for holding some tools, for doing some activities, we have to hold some of the tools like screwdrivers or some other. So for that purpose, we have to have that grip strength. But due to this CTS, the grip strength may decrease, and because the muscles in your hand shrink, you will also have more pain and muscle cramping. So your median nerve can't work the way it should because of the irritation or pressure around it. So your median nerve can't work for the condition when you are facing or feeling that your grip strength is going to decrease. If you are feeling more pain or the muscle cramping, then you can't work in a normal mode. So this leads to a slower nerve impulses, less feeling in your fingers, less strength and coordination, especially the ability to use your thumb to pinch, right? So these are the different symptoms as far as this CTS is concerned. Then what are the causes of this CTS is? So often people don't know what brought on their CTS. It can be due to repetitive motions like typing or any wrist movements that you do over and over. So one of the main cause is the repetitions or repetitive movements and in the particular angle only. So this is one of the example that if you are going to type text material for more than 4 to 5 hours, then CTS may be there. So this is especially true of the things you do when your hands are lower than your wrist. So if your gesture is not proper, if you are not following the guidelines, uh, what we have discussed for the CVS also, because while typing, while doing the activities on computer screens, your forearms and wrist and your hands should be raised on a table or the chair, not on the keyboard. So if you are typing something, so whatever the material you are using for that typing, that should be kept between this monitor and in the keyboard. Otherwise your eye or eye muscle may face the problem of the strain, because focusing and refocusing activities going on a continuous basis and for a longer period. So that may be one of the main cause for this CTS. Then how to treat this CTS if it is the disorder in a particular order in a company and in the person. Then your treatment will depend on your symptoms and how far your conditions has progressed. So normally what we have talked about that low, medium and high level. So if it is initial level, then you can easily prevent this CTS. You can easily treat this CTS. Otherwise, we have to adopt some guidelines. So you might need lifestyle changes, exercises, immobilization, medication, and surgery. So that depends on the condition of your CTS or the symptoms of your CTS or the level of CTS. So if repetitive motion is causing your symptoms, take breaks more often or do a bit less of the activity that is causing your pain. So if you are working for 4 to 5 hours continuously, then you have to take break after 1 hour or 2 hours at least. If you are working for 8 hours, then you should reduce your time or at least you have to increase your breaks. That is the lifestyle change and that depends on the CTS symptoms. So normally if the CTS symptoms are on lower side, then you can easily recover from this CTS with the lifestyle changes. Then sometimes you need some exercises. So stretching or strengthening moves can make you feel better. So sometimes or many times in the IT and electronic industry, you are sitting ideally for hours and hours. You are focusing and refocusing, or you are doing the activities on the computer screen and with the help of keyboards for many hours. So for that purpose, you have to take a break. You have to stretch your body. You have to strengthen some movements and for feeling the better. So nerve gliding exercises can help the nerve move better within your carpal tunnel. So it can avoid these CTS also. Then immobilization, your doctor may tell you to wear a splint to keep your wrist from moving and to less pressure on your nerves. So you may wear one at night to help get rid of that numbness or tingling feeling. So this can help you sleep better and rest your median nerves. So sometimes if the CTS is at the medium or at high level symptoms, then you have to wear this splint. Then medication, so sometimes you may need some medical treatments. Your doctor may give you anti-inflammatory drugs or steroids shots to curb the swelling. So due to working for the longer time in wrong postures or wrong gestures or with inappropriate movements or without blinking or on a continuous basis, then you may have to treat with the help of some drugs. So that may be the steroid drugs, that may be your anti-inflammatory drugs to avoid the curb swelling. And at the higher level, if the CTS is uncontrollable, then you may go for the surgery. So if none of these treatments works, you might have an operation called as CT release, carpal tunnel release, that increases the size of the tunnel and eases the pressure on your nerve. So more pressure on the median nerve is the main issue, and that is why it is called as carpal tunnel syndrome. So if there is no remedy to reduce this pressure, to avoid these pressures, then we have to go for the surgery. And in the surgery, they are going to increase the size of that tunnel to reduce the pressure. So these are some of the treatments of this CTS. Then how to avoid this, how to prevent this CTS. So we have to try some points, that is keep your wrist straight, use a splint or brace that helps keep your wrist in a neutral position, avoid flexing and extending your wrist over and over again, keep your hands warm, take breaks whenever you can, put your hands and wrist in the right position while you work. So these are some of the points we have to follow to prevent this CTS, right? So shaking the hands, keep the warm hand, that is one of the solutions, and keep the wrist in a straight position or in a neutral position. So if it is not possible by you, or if you forgot to keep this wrist in a straight position, then you can adopt the splint or brace. Now the next disorder or disease in the IT or electronic industry is RSI. So what exactly RSI is? So it is repetitive strain injury. The name itself indicates that the repetition activities. So due to the repetition activities, if the strain is there and if some injuries happen, then it is called as repetitive strain injury. So injury to the musculoskeletal and nervous systems that may be caused by repetitive tasks, forceful exertions, vibrations, mechanical compression, or sustain or awkward positions. So if some injury is going to happen to the musculoskeletal and nervous system due to repetition of the task, repetition of the activities, or due to some other causes, then it is called as RSI, that is repetitive strain injury. The symptoms, signs and causes of this RSI, or some of the examples are the experience by patients with RSI are aching, pulsing pain, tingling, and extremely weakness, initially presenting with the intermittent discomfort and then with a higher degree of frequency. So initially, if the RSI is going to happen, then some ache, that may be back ache, wrist ache, forearm ache, shoulder ache, whatever. So if the aching problem is there, if pulsing pain is there, if tingling or some weakness you're going to feel, then there may be a RSI issues. And if it is on a continuous basis, then there may be a higher degree of frequency of this discomfort feelings. So this may be caused due to using a computer mouse, typing, swiping items at a supermarket checkouts, grasping tools, working on an assembly line, training for sports. So these are the various reasons or the causes which may cause an RSI. Then what are the causes and risk factors for RSI? So we have discussed about some of the causes like typing, etc. Then what are the risk factors? So if you are going to continue the repetitive movements in the working environment, then that may damage your muscles and tendons after long time. So some activities that can increase your risk of RSI are the stressing the same muscles through repetitions. So if you are using the same muscles for the same activity and more repetitions are there, then you may be at higher risk. Maintaining the same postures for long periods of time. So if you are at in the same posture for longer period, then you may be at higher risk. Maintaining an abnormal postures for an extended period of time, such as holding your arms over your head. So this is one of the example that is called as abnormal postures, and that is why we must need some ergonomical expert guidelines for maintaining the normal postures. So if you are in a abnormal posture for a longer period, then you may be at higher risk. Lifting heavy objects. So normally the Factory Act 1948 guided us that you should lift only 35 to 55 kgs weight at a time, but there is no more repetition or less frequency should be adopted by that person. If it is not the case, then you may be at the higher risk. Being in poor physical condition or not exercising enough, then you may be at higher risk again. So you have to do some exercises like stretching, stressing, etc. to release the strain or the pressure from the median nerve or from the other body parts also. So you have to do some physical activities to release that pressure and changing the movement, changing the gesture and postures that may relax your body. So previous injuries or conditions such as rotator cuff tear or an injury to your wrist, back or shoulder can also predispose you to RSI. Sometimes it may be happen that due to some injury, due to some incident, due to some accidents, some body parts may be affected. And if it is the case, and if you are doing some activities again and again, which may create a pressure on that particular part again, then you may suffer from the RSI, that is repeated injury. Then how to treat this RSI? So we have discussed about these causes, why it is happen, how it is happen on what exactly the RSI is. How to treat this? So some solutions for these RSIs: RICE, RICE, which stands for rest, ice, compression, and elevation. So sometimes you may need these solutions like RICE. So if you are going to do these activities for a longer time, then you may need some rest. That may be for some minutes, that may be for some hours. Then in case if the uh, tingling or numb activity or numb feeling is there for a particular part that is related to the hand or wrist, then you may apply this ice. So to avoid the swelling in the median nerve or some other nerve, you can apply this ice also. Then you have to use the compression techniques or the elevation technique to proper the or to maintain the proper blood circulation, and which may reduce the RSI possibilities. Then non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, that is NSAIDs, both oral and topical, that should be adopted for the treatment of this RSI. So which is necessary condition when your doctor says that this RSI treatment is necessary now. So if the RSI is not going to cure with the help of this rice, then you can go for this NSAIDs. Then if it is the case which is at higher risk and still your body is not going to react for this RSI solution with the help of these non-steroidal drugs, then you can go for the steroid injections or steroid drugs. So that depend on the condition, that depend on the uh, level of the RSI, and which is concerned and guided by doctors only. Then exercises which may be prescribed as a part of physical therapy treatment plan, and which may reduce the RSI, which may reduce the strain. Then stress reduction and relaxation training. So especially when physiotherapist is there, these physiotherapists or sports medicines are also there. So these sports doctors are also suggesting these activities like some light exercise like aerobics and some stress reduction and relaxation exercises. So all these trainings are needed if you are going to continue the same work and if you are suffering from this RSI. Wrapping the area or securing it with a splint to protect and raise the muscles and tendons. So we have already discussed about these splint or braces. If your doctor suggested that you should go for this, then you have to adopt these splints. Your doctor and physical therapist can also suggest adjustment to your workstation, such as readjusting your chair and desk if you work at a computer, or modification to your movements and equipments to minimize muscle strain and stress, because in many of the cases it happens that the workstations are not designed as per the ergonomic studies, because naturally the depending on the country's persons dimensions, that is called as anthropometry body dimensions. So depending on the India's common height, the common weight, and the body dimension, that is anthropometric dimensions of the common person should be adopted, and depending on that anthropometric dimensions of the Indian people, the companies are going to design these tables and chair accordingly. But if your height is less as compared to the common people, or if your height is more as compared to the common people, then we have to adjust these heights and the movements of your chair or the tables. If it is not possible, then we have to adjust the computer monitors or screen or keyboard and mouse arrangements also. So that is depend on the condition, what exactly the level of RSI is and what are the solutions are. But definitely ergonomics or the ergonomical study is the key points in this RSI treatment. Then there are some tips for preventing the RSI. So we have discussed about the treatment. Now how to prevent this RSI. So for preventing this RSI, we have to follow some of these tips. If you sit at a desk, follow the traditional advice from the parents and teachers. Sit up straight and don't slouch. Good posture is the key to avoiding this unnecessary stress on your muscles. This takes practice and mindfulness. So if you adopt these techniques, that is good posture, that is sit up straight, then you may not suffer from this RSI. There are also some exercises you can do to improve your postures. So this may take some times to adopt these postures or to have the habit of this posture, but you have to follow it. Then adjust your workstation to promote good posture and comfort. So you should feel, or your body should feel, a comfort, and that is the main indication that you are not going to suffer from this RSI. Sit in a chair that gives you support for your lower back and keep your feet flat on the floor or on a footrest. Your thighs should be parallel to the ground and your hands, wrists and forearms should be aligned. Your elbows should be in line with your keyboard to avoid the strains. So all these guidelines are very much useful when the persons or the workers are working in the IT or electronic industry. Avoid sitting cross-legged because these are some of the bad habits adopted by some of the workers and that should be avoided. If possible, spend some of your computer time at a standing desk. Slowly increase the amount of time you stand, aiming for 20 to 30 minutes each hour or more. So these are some of the tips to prevent the RSI. And some other tips like place your computer monitor about an arm's length away from you. The screen should be at eye level so you are looking straight ahead. So normally some people are doing the activities like when you are working on the laptops. So most of the people are having the habits that they are putting these laptops on the ground and they are working on sitting the ground also. So that moment, that angle is not appropriate. If you are uh, putting that laptop on the table and if you are sitting on the chair and the table and chair height is adjusted in such a way that your eyes focus is on the screen with a little bit movement of your head or neck is on the lower positions. So that is the appropriate or best techniques. If you are on the phone a lot, use a headset to avoid the straining your neck, shoulders and arms. So nowadays you are observing these types of activities that even two-wheeler people are also using these phones by adjusting their neck or by adjusting their mobile phone in the helmets. So these practices are not recommended because these practices may create a problem like RSI. Taking frequent breaks from your desk throughout the day is as important as having an ergonomic workstation. So taking break or frequent break is necessary when you are working on your computer screen for a longer time. Get up to stretch or walk around, do shoulder stretches at your desk, march in place, wiggle your fingers and flex your wrist. Those may sound like little things, but mini breaks can make a big differences in preventing RSI. So these frequent breaks, mini breaks are very much essential to avoid this RSI. If your work is not at a desk, the same principles may apply. Maintain good posture, figure out the least stressful positions for the repetitive task required, and take frequent mini breaks. If you have to stand a lot, use an anti-fatigue mat, because sometimes like teacher, lecturer, they may have to stand a lot, and sometimes some persons which are in industry are having the work of like a presentations or some um, standing meetings, etc. Then they also have to use an anti-fatigue mat. Use extension poles for cleaning tools to avoid straining your arms, and lift heavy loads properly. Then if you use tools, take breaks throughout the day to stretch and flex your fingers and wrist. Most occupations have been studied in detail and have guidelines for reducing the worker stress while doing specific tasks. So whatever the work which is available in that industry, for that purpose only they are going to study these activities, why these persons, why these workers are complaining about these things, why these persons are complaining about the back pain, about the wrist pain, about the forearms pain, about the shoulder pains. And for that purpose the expertise in the ergonomics persons are also going to study about these activities, and they are going to study how to avoid these pains, how to avoid these activities, or what is the comfortable position, what is the comfortable gesture and posture, or what is the comfortable engineering control systems to avoid these types of RSI. The National Education Association, for example, has a handbook on RSI that provides tips for teachers, drivers, food workers, custodians, and others. Why this handbook is specially provided for these persons? Because these persons are doing the same activities in the same gesture or positions or in the position for a longer time. For example, teacher is going to teach to the students for 4 to 5 hours, generally 1 hour lecture. But nowadays if you are looking for the exercises of the teachers, then they are working for at least 4 hours in a day for a teaching techniques. So if you are going to teach, then the teacher is going to stand. So he or she stand a lot is the main problem. So the same gesture or position or posture for a longer time, that may create a fatigue, and that is why anti-fatigue mats are recommended for these types of activities. In a similar way, the drivers are also having the same problem. They are going to drive for a longer time, generally at least 4 to 5 hours or more than 4 to 5 hours also. And if you are going to drive the vehicle for a longer time without break, then fatigue may be the issue, and in a similar way for other people also. So whenever the same activity, the same gesture, same postures, same conditions are there for a longer time, then fatigue may be the main issue. So we have already discussed about all these things. So if you have any problem or if you have any questions, then you can ask these questions anytime. Thank you.